Here's something that trips up a lot of women. You're doing so many things and you're still not having healthy, predictable, perfect bowel movements every day. And it's so easy to assume that you just need to try harder, add one more thing. But what if the things you're already doing are actually part of the problem? So today's episode is about the constipation do's and don'ts, but I'm going to move through the do's pretty quickly because I go deep on a lot of them in other episodes. What I really want you to hear today are the don'ts. So the things quietly keeping you backed up that nobody tells you about. I've also got a past client that I want to tell you about, a nurse practitioner who walked in on half a dozen laxatives, but we'll come back to her after we go through the do's and then the don'ts. And in case we haven't met yet, my name's Heather. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. I specialize in gut health, and I've worked with lots of women and men who struggle to have healthy bowel movements every day despite trying everything, every tea, every fiber powder, every supplement, and they're still watching the clock wondering when they're going to go. It's genuinely one of the most common things that we help people with, so let's get into it. First, we're going to quickly run through the 6 do's. Number 1 is nail the basics. Move your body every day. Take a little walk after meals if you can. Sleep 7.5 to 9 hours each day, ideally around the same time each night. Hydrate. Space your meals out 4 to 5 hours in between meals without grazing in between. Keep those meals nice and balanced so that your gut can run its cleaning wave in between those balanced meals. I go deep into all of this in another episode, so I'll try and link that down below. But number 2 is start your morning with something warm. So whether it's just some warm water with a pinch of salt, a squeeze of lemon, some herbal tea, whatever you like. Warm liquid on a relatively empty stomach kicks off what's called the gastrocolic reflex, which is basically your colon getting the memo that it's time to move. It's one of the simplest, most reliable nudges that there is. And if you've ever experienced the urge to go to the bathroom after just waking up and having some liquid or, having a few bites of food, that's why. It's not because that food is already, ready to exit your body. It's because that pressure landing in your stomach is signaling something to the colon to go ahead and make space. So even just a warm beverage first thing in the morning can start that process and that nudge to the colon to start to make space. Third is eat enough fiber. So simply 25 to 40 grams of fiber each day, on the higher end of that for sure for men. But I really think that closer to 40 grams each day is probably optimal even for women. They say around 25 grams per day for women around my age, but I would venture to say that that could be a little bit of an underestimate. So minimum 25 grams per day. But this can be from things like squashes, fruit, berries like raspberries are a great source, nuts, legumes, chia and flax seeds are fantastic. I talk a lot about those. Avocado. And the key here is just getting variety. Fourth, eat your fruit. So aim for around 2 cups per day if you can tolerate it. And if you're particularly wanting to have more bowel movements, kiwi and dragon fruit are 2 of my favorite fruits for increasing bowel movements. 5, use gentle aids while you fix the root cause because nobody wants to just sit around like not pooping. That is so uncomfortable and can lead to so many toxins just recirculating in your gut and can make you feel so miserable. Triphala is lovely. There's a very wide range of dosing for this. So if you've tried it before and it hasn't worked for you, there's a pretty good chance that the dosing was just not optimal for you because it really does work if you get the dose right. But again, there's a huge range of what works for people. Vitamin C is also another one that has a big range but can be so effective. For magnesium, I tend to have people reach more for the magnesium glycinate. That more helps with motility indirectly. It supports different bodily processes. It's much more highly absorbed and used by the body versus the traditional laxative forms like, oxide and citrate. So magnesium glycinate is not considered a laxative. It's more supporting your motility indirectly through supporting these other processes in your body. Because there is some research that shows that some of those more poorly absorbed forms, especially oxide, actually have a really alkalizing effect on the colon, which is not ideal because when you have an alkaline pH in your colon, it is very hospitable to pathogens. And that includes some of the ones that actually slow your motility. So while it doesn't cause dependency directly, indirectly it really does in many cases. So I won't say for everyone, but I will say for people that struggle with methanogen overgrowth and things like that, it can be not the best choice of laxative, even though it is very, very commonly used, especially in the functional medicine world. But I can make a whole episode about that, and I'm sure I will at some point. So again, magnesium glycinate is a gentle, calming form. It absorbs well and it supports the nervous system and motility gently without a direct laxative impact. Aloe can also help, but specifically the inner fillet, that's the kind of soothing gel part. You don't want the whole leaf or the latex part, which is a stimulant laxative. So it's in the same family as like senna. So the inner fillet, that gel part supports healthy bowel movements without the dependency causing harsh side effects of the whole leaf aloe. And all of these are just tools that are available for short-term use. They're not intended to be forever. Number 6 is track your motility speed. So a really simple way to do this is to eat something that is not fully digested by our human body so that we can watch for when it comes out in the toilet and track how long it takes between consuming it and seeing it in the toilet. So the ideal transit speed, and that's called transit speed, how long it takes from the time that you swallow the food to the time you see it in the toilet, is 16 to 24 hours. And you might not see it all come out in one bowel movement, but we want to see the first and last bowel movements in that time frame. So if you eat, let's say, boiled corn or something like that, grilled corn on the cob, and you eat, half a cup or a cup of that at noon on a Thursday, and if it hasn't come out completely by noon on a Friday, so meaning the exact same volume that you ate, if you're not seeing all of that corn exiting your body by or before noon the next day, chances are your transit speed is on the slow side. So we do this with a lot of our constipated clients, and what I've seen is that the transit speed can actually take up to 5 days or more before all of the corn has come out. And if you're not able to do this with corn, there's tons of other ways you can do it. There is the blue muffin test that some of you might have seen. I think that was promoted by like the Zoe company. You can do it with sesame seeds. There are other foods that don't get fully broken down that you would be able to see in the toilet, but I think that corn is the easiest way to see it. You could also do it with something like beets, but having an objective quantifier for your transit speed, I think is really, really important for knowing if that is improving from the strategies that you're using. Because if you do the corn test and you find that your motility, it's taking 3 days for all of the corn to fully exit your body. Maybe you see, a little bit of it after 24 hours. Maybe you see a little bit more after 48 hours, and then you see a little bit more, and then it stops coming out and you've seen about the volume come out that you ingested. If that's happening, and then you start doing something to improve your motility, like you start meal spacing or adding in ginger tea as a gentle prokinetic, how are you going to actually know if that's helping? Like maybe you still feel kind of backed up, so you decide that it's not working, but you recheck your corn test and you find that now all of the corn is exiting your body in 48 hours. That would actually be pretty successful in my mind. This is how research is conducted. We're never looking for 100% resolution from just one intervention. So we want to be seeing that moved the needle. And if it made the transit speed 30% faster from just one intervention, I would say that's amazing. Now from there, we can add in another layer. Maybe we double down on that dose. Maybe we add in another specific probiotic strain that speeds up transit time, but we don't know if we're not tracking. So I am a big fan of, I know it's kind of cheesy, but that whole test don't guess saying that we've all heard ad nauseum. It really is true for a reason, right? Moving on. So let's dive into the don'ts. This is going to be the heart of our episode here today. So number 1, don't lean on fermentable sugars. This one catches so many of my clients off guard. They come in drowning everything in honey, putting maple syrup in their lattes, eating dates with butter in them. Thank you to the carnivore community for that. Nothing against dates, but they come in and they're wondering why they're so backed up. And honey and maple syrup and dates are highly fermentable, and they can trigger slow motility if you have a lot of methanogens hiding in your gut. Those are the very microbes that slow motility. So if we feed them, they produce methane gas that slows down our gut. So these are healthy sweeteners, but they may be working against someone who is, dealing with chronic constipation or really slow motility, and they're trying to make these healthy changes from traditional sweeteners into something more natural, and they don't realize that it's actually having this impact and slowing things back down. So I'm not saying to avoid these foods are terrible or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you're someone who is eating a lot of these things and you're struggling to have regular bowel movements, that's something that you could consider. Number 2 is don't build your routine around fiber bars, fiber sodas. These are really, really trending in 2026 at the time of me recording this episode. I know at Expo West Expo is a product convention that happens, I think, on the East Coast and the West Coast once a year each. And you can go out and try all the new products that are coming out. And as a nutritional therapy practitioner, I am fascinated by all the new products that come out. And I love going to these conventions and sampling everything and seeing what the brands are doing. I didn't go this year, but I love to watch the content that creators will post about it. And I just noticed this year there were a lot of like gummies. I also get gifted, some products from certain brands sometimes. And I've noticed a lot of the gifting coming my way has been like gummies and fiber sodas and fiber bars. And like that has been really trending this year. We're fiber maxing, which I love to see. But we don't want to be building our fiber routine around these fiber sodas like Poppy and Olipop, which again, I love these. Like I have a whole bunch of both of them in my fridge. I'm a big fan, stan, whatever you want to call it. But again, a lot of them are packed with inulin, and inulin can be a trigger for people with slow motility. So again, it's one of those methanogen triggers. A lot of my reasoning today in this episode comes back to feeding methanogens. But, as someone who works with a lot of constipated people, like 80% of my practice right now is people struggling with slow motility and constipation and, bloating and food intolerances. I see so much methanogen overgrowth in these individuals. And there's a lot of nuance that goes with each of them. Like they all have differences. They don't just only have that one issue, and it varies from person to person what else they have going on. But that is a common thread that I've seen throughout my slow motility girlies. And so I want to be flagging some of these things that are really healthy and trendy that can be really big triggers for them just because it's coming from my professional experience with what I'm seeing a lot of. So, these inulin-based sodas and products can be a big trigger for someone whose constipation is coming from intestinal methanogen overgrowth. If you are already constipated, hold off on the Olipop and the Poppy sodas until you're going comfortably at least 1 to 2 times a day. And I don't mean like the rabbit pellets. I mean like a real healthy, complete, full bowel movement once to twice a day where you feel good that you're evacuating. Then you can add these things in and just observe, like make sure that your digestion stays good and that you're not like constipated the day after doing something like that. Third is don't rely on psyllium to save you. Psyllium is, again, another one of those that can be hit or miss. It can be so game changing, and it's such an amazing fiber for people that it's right for. But a lot of the people that I work one-on-one with, we can tell from their lab testing if this is going to be a fit for them or if it's not. So I wouldn't go super, super hard on psyllium necessarily. I think the most common brand name out there right now for this is Metamucil. You're welcome to try it. If it works for you, you'll know. If it doesn't and it makes you more bloated and constipated, then you'll know. I definitely see a lot more of the latter just because these microbiomes are so unstable and they're not really able to utilize this fiber yet until they've done some gut healing. The good thing is that psyllium is not harsh or dependency forming. It's a gentle, bulking, laxative type of fiber. But if your motility is already sluggish, and especially if you're not fully hydrated, bulking things up with psyllium can really back you up more. So just a word of caution. Number 4, I've touched on this a little bit already throughout the episode, but don't build your whole routine around laxatives that might have downstream negative impacts. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So senna, which is in Smooth Move tea, which I mentioned already, it's dependency causing. So the more you use it, the more sluggish your bowels become without it. Magnesium oxide, I mentioned that one too. So the way that can make your gut too alkaline, and as a result, pathogens can bloom there. Miralax, there's a bunch of undesirable side effects that can come from long-term use of that. And it's not intended for long-term use. They even say that on the bottle. Your doctor will tell you that when they're recommending that. Don't do this forever. There's so many others, but we don't want to have you building your routine around these like harsh laxatives or things that have unwanted side effects long term. So I'm not saying that you should never do these things. If you're in a pinch, it's going to be better to have a bowel movement than to keep all these toxins inside of you. But when your whole strategy is relying on this, it's never going to correct anything or create long-term change. And over time, it will just start to kind of backfire. I've seen people that have been on massive doses of senna every day for years on end. And they come to me and I'm like, man, I really wish you found me, 1 month into doing this and not years into doing this, because you're not fixing the root issue. So the root issue is still brewing below the surface, causing havoc that you don't realize because you're kind of band-aiding it by adding this stimulant laxative and you become dependent on it. So everything becomes even more. Number 5 is don't overlook your medications. A surprising number of everyday meds and even supplements I would add are constipating. So opioids, some antidepressants, certain blood pressure meds, iron supplements. If your constipation started around the time that you began a new prescription or even a new supplement, that's possibly not a coincidence, and I wouldn't brush that off. I would not stop anything on your own necessarily, but maybe bring it up with your prescriber because sometimes there is an alternative or a way to support around it. Really quick, I want to flag something. If you're seeing blood in your stool, if your bowel habits change suddenly out of nowhere, or if you're losing weight without trying, if you've got severe or persistent pain or vomiting, that's not a tweak your fiber situation. Like, please go and get checked out by a doctor because most constipation is very fixable with the things that we're talking about. But constipation is not always a standalone issue. It can be a symptom of a deeper issue. So make sure that you go and rule those kind of things out if you haven't already. So back to the client that I mentioned earlier, the nurse practitioner, she came to me on something like half a dozen laxatives, prescription ones, herbal ones, the whole cabinet. She had an unusually long colon and a methane issue, so genuinely a lot working against her. And within just a couple of weeks on her protocol, she was evacuating every single day. And this was the best part. So like after a couple months, probably 2 to 3 months, we started weaning her off all of her protocol, and her results held even after our work together wrapped up. So she was so, so grateful. And I remember she had a lot of like other benefits that went with that, which it was just very life-changing to her. Like, it really impacted the way that she showed up at work as a nurse practitioner, as a healthcare professional who really needs to feel 100% every day. Her constipation was causing so many other issues within her lifestyle and within her body and how she felt every day. So she was super, super happy about that and got back so much quality of life in terms of how she was able to show up at work and everything else. Just so crazy to think about being on such high, not only so many different laxatives that were not working for her, but such high doses of all of them as well. But anyways, I could go on and on about some of the crazy situations that I've seen that, you would think that you would be able to have a bowel movement with that many things. But if the underlying issues are still present, or there's just often more to the story than needing another laxative. What I want you to walk away with today is that getting regular usually isn't about adding one more laxative or one more thing. It's sometimes about taking away what's quietly slowing you down. And if you've been doing all of the right things and you're still feeling stuck, or you're leaning on laxatives just to go to the bathroom at all, and you want to get to the actual root of it so that your body does this on its own again, that's what we help people do one-on-one inside of our Gut Health Glow Up program. It's designed to help you to dive deeper into what's happening inside your microbiome so that we can help you eat, dress, and live with freedom again. If you're interested in that, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. You can send me the word podcast and we can chat and see if that direction makes sense for you. And if you want a little head start, I also have a free constipation mini guide that I'll link down below. It walks through a lot of what was covered today and a couple of other things that I didn't mention as well. And if you found this episode helpful, liking it or starring it, reviewing it, giving it a thumbs up, whatever the option is on the platform you're listening, tells the platform to share it with more people who are looking for info like this. So you can help others get the help they need this way. You can support the channel this way. And we just really, really appreciate it. We're still in our first 10 episodes here, so super excited to be able to bring this content to you guys and just keep the feedback coming. It really, really helps. On that note, that's going to be a wrap for this episode. I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.